Welcome to Talking Early Years, a showcase training podcast with Ellen Roberts
and Gemma Carr.
Hello and welcome to today's Talking Early Years podcast. In today's episode, this is our safeguarding short and we are going to be discussing safeguarding in the news as a bit of a summer special. So let's delve in. Hi Hannah.
Hi Ellen, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? Lovely to have you.
Thank you. Lovely to see you.
So some of our listeners may already know if you've listened to other episodes of the podcast. So Hannah is replacing our lovely Gemma, who has gone on to new pastures. So welcome to Hannah. Thank you for bringing out your wealth of experience to our podcast. I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion, this one.
Big shoes to fill, but we will give it a go.
I know. You do amazing. Absolutely amazing. So tell us, current news stories.
We obviously have touched on bits of this. I feel very passionate about talking about current kind of news stories because I feel like they're relevant. They're probably things that our learners have seen and heard. But the one for me, I mean, there's a range of different news bits and pieces that have been out, but the one for me has been the Fording Bridge rape case.
Yeah.
So this was where three boys, I think they were between sort of 13 and 15.
15, yeah.
They asked a girl through Snapchat to come and meet one of them. They then raped her. Apparently there was a knife involved, but I think there's a little bit of there's inconsistencies there with the story. They then did it again 2 weeks later to another girl.
Oh.
Now, what I think was so shocking with this is number one, obviously the age of the victims.
Yes.
And the age of the perpetrators. But also it was that they weren't given what a lot of people felt was a stricter and harsher sentence, which is now going to be reviewed in July, because I know it ended up going to Downing Street, and Downing Street said absolutely going to be reviewing this. But it does bring up the question of how and why did it get to that point? I mean, number one, which we will be going on to, social media, obviously using Snapchat, that was their way of kind of coercing the girls, I should say, into coming to where they met them. But also, one of the biggest things for me that I keep kind of reflecting on, and it kind of links to Louis Theroux's documentary of the toxic masculinity into the manosphere, where if I reflect on my kind of first experience of what I thought sex was, it was movies, TV shows, very soft and lovely and very girly and romantic and all of that, whereas I think for boys it's porn.
Yes.
I think,
and even the portrayal in films, even it's a bit extreme, but like James Bond or these kind of ones, is that they are the macho, romantic, they can have any women they like, kind of representation in movies completely. Is that it's to be a man is to bed a woman, it's
be dominant.
Completely. And to have that from an early age as well, it's seen as a bad thing to be a virgin in your teens. I mean, for goodness sakes. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, I think it's probably it's able to be accessible. I think they have put stricter things on like porn sites.
Yes.
However, there's still things that you can see on TikTok. I had something from my daughter's school a few weeks ago where some of the boys in year 6 were talking about Bonnie Blue. How on earth do they know about Bonnie Blue?
Why do you know about that?
I mean, she had absolutely no idea, and she's not on TikTok or anything like that, but and I just think if they have access to it, the likelihood is they're going to be curious. They're not going to go to the female friendly part of the site. They're probably going to go to the more kind of hardcore side of things,
and they don't know any different. No, they don't know what's hardcore or
and then that is their understanding of a sexual relationship. Now, I'm not saying that is what's happened. I know that a lot of bits have come out regarding their IQ, that I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the boys, his IQ is in the lower kind of 1%, I think.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the conditions as kind of, why the judge ruled to not give them time, because I think any kind of, I think he felt that it was down to their kind of mental capacity rather than their
It's their
equal people.
culpability
Yeah.
there. Absolutely.
But I do, it's something that I have actually brought up when I've done reviews with learners, talking about healthy relationships, talking about digital safety, consent, all of that kind of stuff, because I do think I think because it's so close to home, it's in Hampshire, and I've got a daughter who is only a couple of years off of that age. I think that's what kind of was so shocking. And I mean, we could sit and talk about why we think they did it and why they think they didn't. I know there's kind of our professional heads, and then there's our personal, oh my god, they should be in jail. But we can kind of, I do know that a lot of the time things like that, there's normally something that's been going on in childhood. Again, I'm not saying that is the case, but you just don't know the full background and the full picture.
Hit the nail on the head. It is that personal response versus professional response. And personally, it still upsets me to see headlines and it's focusing on the perpetrator still. And yes, we all want to see justice served, but actually what support is there for those girls? How did they get into that situation? Not that it's their fault in any way, shape or form. What happened to them was done to them. They didn't bring that about. But is there a risk on Snapchat, or should there be those upper age limits? And obviously the big news topic at the moment is the social media ban. Pros and cons to both. Again, from a personal and professional perspective, I very much debate between it's like two little people on either shoulder arguing in between. But I think there's great learnings to take away from that case. How it's been handled in the media, opening those conversations up about what is normal and what we can expect for safety. And I think people sometimes forget that safeguarding is about safety as well as everything else. And about personal safety as much as everything. There's so many topics within safeguarding.
That's what I try and teach my learners is safeguarding is an umbrella term. Completely. It falls, additional needs and SEND falls into that bracket. Health and safety falls into that bracket. Attendance, accidents, all of those kind of things. That all, because safeguarding is you are preserving and protecting the people around you, whether that's children, whether that's an employee, you are safeguarding their welfare.
Absolutely. And I think talking to learners and talking to colleagues about it, talking as professionals and as personal people, friends or parents or whatever, is so important, because we can all do courses and we can all probably reel off, signs of abuse and signs of neglect and all of these kind of things, which is incredibly important. You've got to have that foundational knowledge, but you should also know what it looks like in the real life. And contextual safeguarding is something that we are incredibly passionate about. I know you and I talk about this a lot, about talking about what's going on in media, about how to recognize it. Even EastEnders, there's a storyline at the moment where somebody's used AI to fake somebody's voice. It's like a deep fake type storyline, but actually that is a thing that's going on at the moment. Let's talk about it, and videos. And
oh my gosh, yes, that's actually just flagged something up. So I was listening to a podcast. It was based in America, but I'm sure that things like this has happened here, where family of 4, 2 daughters. One daughter was with dad, one daughter was with mum. They were in different parts of the country. Mum got a phone call to say, I've got your daughter. I'm going to kill her if you don't pay me X amount of money. She could hear her daughter, hear her cries, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that someone thought to phone the husband, and he was like, she's with me, she's absolutely fine.
Presence of mind to do that.
How scary to think that, where have they got that technology to impersonate her crying? Because she was like, it sounded exactly like her.
That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I know beat this drum, I think, every single podcast. Don't put your kids on social media.
I've stepped back from social
Have
media.
you?
So I have it, but I don't have it on my phone. It's more of a conscious thing because my daughter's going to secondary school and she wants social media and she wants all of that. And I'm like, well, I'm not really role modeling me saying no and saying, well, no, it's a bad thing and you can go into this deep hole of really random stuff. I'm going to just delete it. I don't want her to see me just scrolling through Instagram. Maybe take a step back. You don't need to put your whole life on Instagram, and just be very careful of, you know, putting your children's voices on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I do completely appreciate, I'm not a parent, so I'm in a very privileged position saying the things I do sometimes, you know, it's absolutely harder in practice than anything else. And I also appreciate that we come from a very unprivileged perspective, that we have access to all these horrible training and news stories and the very worst of the world. So I do also very much appreciate that, you know, 99.99 times out of 100 things are going to be fine. However, from
there's that small part.
I go absolutely to the extreme of, oh my god, this is going to happen. So yeah, I do appreciate that as well. That's my professional voice overtaking my personal voice, which is unusual because usually it's the other way around. So we mentioned about it just briefly there, the social media ban. Very interesting. I am absolutely on the fence with this one. Where are you?
It's almost kind of taken a bit of weight off of me, I feel like, as a parent. Because again, going from that professional, personal view, I can see that all of my daughter's friends have social media, you know, whether that's TikTok, Snapchat, you know, whatever. And I mean, she doesn't even have a phone at the moment. I didn't have a phone until I was 13, and I didn't need a phone until I was 13. And it was purely, you know, I went out and, you know, no one was tracking me. Now, I'm not saying we've got this technology, like, absolutely. If my daughter lies to me about where she's going and I can actually tell she's 10 miles away, fantastic. That's great. But equally, I do want her to be able to be a child. I saw a really good, someone did a really good post about, it was like, you know, Bacardi breezers, you weren't allowed to drink alcohol, but, you know, you'd have the odd Bacardi breezer. But, you know, I wasn't drinking Bacardi breezers in my bed, and I wasn't drinking it when walking to school, and I wasn't drinking it when I was, you know, having dinner with my family and all of this kind of stuff. And you putting that into context, no, you weren't allowed it. However, you look how consuming phones are for young people. They are in their bedrooms scrolling. You know, it's the first thing they look at when they wake up, last thing they look at when they go to bed. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who said that her son, you know, he wakes up in the morning, he's got 100 messages because he's in this group chat at school. And I just think the anxiety that would give me.
Holy moly.
So in terms of, you know, I know that they can still message each other. It's not as if, you know, so social media in terms of texting and phone calls and all of that's been banned. But I do think it alleviates this risk factor of what they're exposed to.
I agree.
I just spoke to you about the whole Bonnie Blue thing. That wouldn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It does alleviate it. I am all for the ban. We forget, again, as adults, we know a world without tech and without social media. For our children, they have only ever known a world with this. They can't sit and eat a meal without being on an iPad. And what a sad state of affairs that we're in, where we're having to ban something that should have been a positive thing and a nice thing to have. And it no longer is.
No.
I agree with the element of risk. I think it's just a no-brainer, isn't it? It's the biggest form of risk to children is what's online, whether it's abuse, child criminal exploitation.
Instagram. So they've obviously put like a suicide alert, that they're going to introduce this suicide alert to parents, so that if their child, so I'm assuming it will be children that are over the age of 16, because obviously children under the age of 16 from next year shouldn't be on it. If their child is searching for anything like that, it will send an alert to the parents.
What world are we living in where that's
now children have been committing suicide for many years,
and they're going to be
due
curious.
to bullying at school, and whether that's self-harm. It is just very much more documented, and the whole social media is the evil aspect of this, because they saw something on Instagram and now they wanted to do it. Well, I don't know whether that's necessarily the case. I think there was probably always that in the back of their mind.
Well, a few podcasts ago, we had the Violence Reduction Unit director, Jim Pegler, on, and he was saying things like knife crime and certain crime, yes, there's an increase, but sometimes it's the perception of crime that's almost as bad as the crime itself. And I think it's the same with that kind of thing. Sometimes it's in a good way. So, for example, we talk about additional needs quite a lot, and how autism and ADHD particularly seem more prevalent nowadays. They're probably just more identified, first of all, and more diagnosed than they ever were. They probably were as many, and that's a good thing. 100%. Certain things online, there's a balance, isn't there, between having that exposure and education, and then being forewarned and forearmed and knowing about it. We shouldn't be hiding things from children.
No.
But equally, overexposure is as damaging. So it is that balance, and I don't think we're striking it with social media. It's just too unregulated. It's a Pandora's box really, online. My reservations with it, however, how on earth are they going to implement this successfully? I mean, and maybe I just don't understand the tech, but first thing that kids did with like the Pornhub, or whatever other porn sites there are, I don't know. The first thing that they did was download VPNs. So there's going to be something, because this isn't an international ban, this is just in the UK. Yeah. So when they go abroad in the summer holidays, are they going to access it then? First thing I thought was YouTube's on the list, which I thought was actually a bit of a weird one, but I can kind of see why, because of the shorts and all of the kind of risk on videos and things. But it is an educational tool as well, But the first thing I think most parents would do is just log in under their own. So wouldn't that then increase the risk because it's now no longer YouTube for kids?
I genuinely have no idea how they're going to regulate this. I think as a parent, if you disagree with it and you want your children on Instagram, then you log them in on your account, or set up an account under your name, and you do that and all more for you. But I just whether it's a case of like when you want to like sign up to like something to do with the government, and you can do like, it's like a verified check using like your passport or something like that. So whether they do something along those lines. I know that this whole digital ID card has been floated around numerous times. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that either.
Again, pros and cons, isn't there? It's for and against. It's tricky.
Whether it would be a case of, you have to give us your parental consent, and you have to film a video and to show that it's not you, it is you. I don't know. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. That's my biggest reservation. Is I think it's a fantastic thing. I really do, but is it going to work? And I think that's me talking as a professional. Really, is I'm worried about the underground element of it. It's a similar argument to drinking and smoking, isn't it? Really, there's elements of personal choice there, and I know obviously children is like obviously different, but in some cultures, some countries, they have a glass of wine, or a sip of wine at age 12, and
this is the thing,
they don't have the binge element.
If you going back to the Bacardi Breezer thing, that's once in a while that they snuck a Bacardi, that we used to sneak a Bacardi Breezer. If it's once in a while that they access social media, that is ultimately going to be better than them just sat there scrolling through it all day.
Oh, completely. And again, I suppose they can't obviously legislate for the ones that it's got to be binary. It's either all or nothing. I would say the same argument with smacking. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous. Why hasn't that been banned by now in England? Not leaving a mark. I mean, that's so open to interpretation. That's ridiculous. It has to be one or the other, in my opinion. And same with social media. I think I completely understand why they've just gone for a ban. I think that's the safest way, isn't it, really? Yeah, it's an interesting one. It would be interesting to see how long it lasts, impact on companies, because at the end of the day, Meta and these big corporations are businesses. They are there to make money.
And I bet they make a lot of money off kids.
Absolutely. Ethics don't massively come into it. Unfortunately. It's a very interesting thing. But yeah, because something else also it's slightly not massively safeguarding, it's more health, but smoking being banned for under 16, I think it is, or there's an age where children won't be able, born after a certain age, won't be able to buy cigarettes. So the aim is for them to have never had access to it. Yes, here we go. So implementing a lifelong ban that prevents anyone born after the 1st of January 2009 from ever legally purchasing cigarettes, which I think is a very interesting.
I mean, that is one way to do it, isn't it? If you've never known it, why would you want to?
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, funny enough, we were talking last night. I was at a meeting. We were saying that children nowadays seem to have different tastes, whereas we were, the Lamborghini and Frosty Jacks down the park kind of era. There are, actually I don't like pink gin. What do you know what that is?
Pink gin. I mean, that's bougie.
They are very worldly aware.
I was White Lightning or a Smirnoff or a Bacardi Breezer, and I felt very cool.
I think it'd be nice to get children back to being children again.
Yeah.
I think that's a lovely thing.
Yeah.
So what else have you seen in the media and kind of news?
So I feel that we need to touch on nurseries in terms of child protection and safeguarding, because that's been quite prominent. I know there's obviously Nathan Bennett, who is part of the Part 2 nurseries. I think there was something that came out yesterday. One of the staff members has said, we whistleblowed on him. It wasn't taken seriously, and this happened numerous times. It raises the awareness of, when it comes to whistleblowing, if your concern is not taken seriously, you can go above your manager. You can go to the lardo. You can go to MASH. And it's important that if you see something or you feel something is off, follow that instinct.
Completely.
Because I mean, and obviously if it's consistent, I do it's really hard, because I can understand. I mean, maybe not necessarily from that guy, because he looked a bit dodgy. But if I think of like the girls that I used to work with, I don't think it would even cross my mind, if I'm honest.
Of course it wouldn't. Why
obviously would it? I'm vigilant. There was definitely times where there were instances of concern, I would say, but I'm just trying to think of, if my manager was saying everything's fine, like, we'll take care of it, it's all right, I guess you probably would just trust that.
Of course you would. And especially if you are new to the setting, an apprentice perhaps, or somebody that's not as confident or as determined or persistent, you would be fearing, am I going to lose my job over this if I keep raising it? Am I going to just be a nuisance? Are they going to treat me differently because of it? And there absolutely is a culture within some settings where safeguarding is a mandatory training module that's done once a year, and that's it. It is not a culture of safeguarding that Ofsted look for, and frankly everybody should look for in every setting. And that professional curiosity is important, and asking those questions, absolutely. But the reality of making disclosures is, as you say, why would you suspect somebody that's your colleague and somebody that you've worked alongside for a few years? Why would you suspect that person of having that ill intent? Safeguarding incidents are rarely in isolation. As soon as that Part 2 news story dropped, first thing we said was, well, what happened leading up to that? Because it doesn't just happen, this one random isolated incident where, he stuck his hand down a child's trousers. That's not just happened. He hasn't just
No.
woken up one day
Yeah.
and gone, I know what I'm going to do today. I'm going to
Yeah.
be a paedophile. It doesn't happen
And that
like
was
that.
purely only because it was caught on CCTV.
Absolutely.
There had
What about the
been,
practitioners in that room with him?
yeah, there had been previous, where he was kind of sat in the corners away from the
Yeah.
CCTV. I just,
Mhm.
I
Absolutely.
it
It's
just, I mean,
unforgivable
yeah,
how that happened. And the sad nature of it is that there will be other victims, but we will never know about it.
no,
And thankfully, hopefully, the children will never know about it either. And it's so challenging. We saw in the news this week as well, Bright Horizons, they've had a bit of a safeguarding notice issued to them by Ofsted for a few settings. And again, it's around that safeguarding culture where staff don't feel that they can speak out about it. They don't know what to do about it. They're not even recognising where a safeguarding issue is. I think we can all speak to examples of where there's been a safeguarding incident and people haven't responded appropriately. And it's very difficult to then do that in retrospect. I think that's the biggest thing that we as professionals have to take away from this. With the Nathan Bennett case with part two is, as a professional, I look at him and think, how has that happened?
yeah,
What has led up to that point, and what is going on in that person's psychology to lead them to that point? But also, as a professional and as a person, look at how has that been allowed to happen and
yeah,
continue, and why didn't somebody notice?
yeah.
And the fact that somebody's now come out and said, you know what, yes, I did notice, I raised it, it was ignored, I took it further, and then he was suspended.
It just then feeds into that culture of practitioners feeling like, oh, I can make, a disclosure about a
Yeah,
member of staff, but then it's not going to be taken seriously. So what's the point? Which
absolutely.
is obviously
And
what
that
happened with Vanessa George.
completely,
Practitioners were feeling that they
absolutely.
couldn't
Yeah,
say anything, couldn't whistleblow on her because, oh, she's really well liked
it's
and
just
no one's going to believe
Vanessa.
me. Oh, well, that's absolutely
Sure,
fine because
absolutely.
obviously
Yeah,
she's just going to be sending that to her little paedophile ring. That's fine.
completely. And that's
It's, yeah,
where our mandatory reporting duty is coming into effect. So coming into effect later this year into 2027 into legislation. So it's still going through Parliament at the moment, where anybody making a disclosure, it is their duty and responsibility to make sure that
yeah,
that is reported to MASH or LADO. So whether you are the DSL or not, you have the responsibility, even if you've reported it to your DSL, to either then report it again to MASH or LADO, or
yeah,
to make sure that that DSL has passed it on, because in so many cases, it often reaches a
yeah,
senior level, and for whatever reason, maybe it's they know the person and they think they wouldn't do that, maybe they don't want the bad press that comes
yeah,
along with it, or the reputational damage if it's wrong. There's a whole multitude of reasons, but the child is not being put at the center of that decision making,
yeah,
and it's a very sad situation to see.
yeah,
It is a very difficult thing, and it's very difficult to make that disclosure as well when it's somebody that you've worked alongside for a long
yeah,
time.
absolutely.
You consider a friend. Even it's much easier when you see a stranger and you think it doesn't, you don't have an emotional connection to that person. It's very easy to report it, but in reality it's going to be somebody that you're working around every day that's shaking a
Yeah,
child to
a lot
frustration.
of these nurseries, as the same with our um
Oh,
with our
our
work,
team
and yeah, our team,
completely.
thank you, can't get my words out. We socialize, we talk to each
Absolutely.
other about our personal lives, and that's very
Absolutely.
much that kind of, I mean, from my setting was very much
Mm,
the culture in my, it was of that family feel of,
absolutely.
I'm having a hard day, I can have a little cry in
Mm,
the office and then I can go and get on with my job. And
absolutely.
that's where you kind of build those emotional bonds with the people that you
Mhm.
work with. You're with them, 5 days a week, you're with them more than your family. So then, I feel like you probably would, it would really kind of blindside you, but it's,
Absolutely. Question it. You think, have I?
yeah,
Is
it's
that
again, it's that professional and personal. So you've
completely?
almost got to go, I am here professionally to look after these children. Personally, love so and so outside of work, don't have any
Mhm.
issues with them. However, I've seen this in their practice, you know, whether that's they've pulled a child by the arm towards them, that's
Mhm.
still not okay. You know, that's they could really hurt them through doing that. And
Mhm.
you know, whether
Absolutely.
that's you then escalate it to your manager to say, I think you need to have a photo. You know, I'm not. We've gone down the kind of it's abuse. Like they're a paedophile, it's abuse, it's the end. But obviously there are other smaller
It could just be
disclosures that could be led
yeah,
that could lead to a bigger
absolutely.
one.
Absolutely. And it could just be out of date practice
Yeah.
or not being able, not knowing how to deal with behavior management,
Yeah.
smaller things that is a learning opportunity. But absolutely, yeah. Obviously, as I say, we go 0 to 100, don't we?
Yeah.
That is our life, our world.
Yeah.
um, what else have you seen? What do you think is coming up?
What do I think is coming up? What do you think is coming up?
Ooh, I think AI is going to be a boom and a bust. And that's
Mm-hmm.
my prediction. If I needed to do my half-yearly predictions for the year 2026, I think, yeah, AI, because it's being so now misused, as I feel
Yeah.
like it's just human nature, isn't it? We always abuse everything.
Mm-hmm.
People just take things to the extreme. I think it will have a bit of a boom and a bust. What else do I think? We were talking earlier about safe sleep practices, and especially in the heat.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, going back to that part two, the Nathan Bennett case, there's obviously Ofsted are going to be doing an extra 3,000 unannounced
Yeah.
nursery visits, which will include safer sleep practice. But I mean, we obviously had a conversation where it's extremely hot today, and there are nurseries closing, there's schools closing. You know, what is the right thing? And I mean, I am firmly in the camp of if you've got air conditioning, great. If you don't, absolutely not. I feel like when your body temperature rises anyway when you sleep,
Mhm.
and if you've got a group of 12 babies that are all trying to sleep, do you want to take that risk? I just wouldn't. And you know, there's been so much in the media about safer sleep practices, and you know, that is really highlighted. And there is this part of me, and I really hope I'm wrong, that I think probably during this heat wave something will come of that, and I really hope I am wrong about that. But it's weighing up the welfare of children
Completely.
against the business aspect of
Mhm.
it.
Absolutely, I agree. And it's very difficult where a lot of safeguarding is common sense, but it relies on people to have common sense and
Yeah.
not to follow procedures that don't make sense. So
Yeah.
yes, you keep your nurseries open and all of that because that's what the business should do. However, common sense says that there is a risk here that you
Yeah.
can't manage. So you need to take action with
Yeah.
that. It's not written down in a health and safety neat policy
No.
with a step-by-step guidance
I
of
mean,
what to do.
perhaps it should be now. Perhaps, you know,
Maybe,
it needs to be
maybe.
looked at.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
what
it's
could
not
be
going to be a one-off, is
constituted as
it?
danger for life? Because I mean,
Yeah,
we had a heat wave
absolutely.
last year. I think it's
Yeah,
even hotter this year. I know that,
completely.
you know, everyone's been talking about, I think we might need to start having air conditioning in our
Absolutely,
homes.
yeah. I know 2022 we had that 3-week period of hot.
Yeah.
And I know that people online are saying, oh, in 1976, I think it was, though, it had
Oh,
12 weeks of, but it was a bit of a different world back
yeah.
then. We were in
Yeah.
major insulated houses now. Yeah, I'm sat in a new build and it's wonderful in the winter, but in the summer, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, you know, but equally back in 1976, our standard of living and the welfare that we expect for our children was a very different
Yeah.
standard. So I just don't, judging fish against apples, you can't do it. You
No.
only respond to today and how we
Yeah.
feel today. And yes, I agree with you. I think safe sleep is going to be something that's not going to fall far from the media's eye for a while.
Hmm.
Obviously, the safe sleep changes in the EYFS was predominantly on the back of the beanbag incident that unfortunately occurred. But I mean, again, that was common sense. Why would you put a child on a beanbag? It just doesn't make any sense, the whole
I don't,
situation.
I mean, again, my personal point of view, don't think that was I don't think the intent of death, like murder, was there, but I do think,
you'd hope not.
No, but I do think that the intent to harm and silence the child.
Completely. Why would you?
Yeah.
What else would you be doing that for?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
You know, that person hasn't just landed from Mars on Earth for the first day and thought, oh, that's a nice cozy place to sleep. That person is a trained individual that's been in a nursery for more than half an hour to see, oh, a child sleeps in a bed or a cot. You know, it's ludicrous.
It really is scary.
Yeah.
I think that there are.
Completely.
I mean, obviously, I was aware of, when I was working in a setting, we did safeguarding training twice a year. It was very robust. We spoke about, Victoria Columbo, Jessica Chapman, and Holly Wells.
Yeah.
So all of those kind of
real life
child safeguarding
stories,
practice reviews that have changed legislation. But I feel like since being in this job, I am seeing and I'm aware of a lot more. And I don't know whether that is through doing a different job where I'm talking more, obviously kind of more about what's going on. And we obviously share news stories and stuff, or whether it's my age, whether it's kind of I'm maybe honing into it a little bit more, because I mean, back in the day when BBC News used to flash up, I'd be like, no, I don't want to know anything.
Yeah, it's true. And I suppose, 10 years ago, we probably had one or two examples. By now, we've accumulated examples. So it seems, again, it seems a bit more prevalent, perhaps. Again, it's a difficult one to answer, really. And I know, we've said it again on this podcast, but we come at it from a very unprivileged perspective. And I've worked out what the opposite of privilege is. It's the heat. It's the heat. That we do, see the worst side of things. And, the good side of safeguarding isn't often reported on, for sad reasons, really. Sometimes it would be nice to hear those good news stories, but it's so important to learn from these and have those open conversations, and have the Showcase magazine open on the CPD page. We've got even like a what we're watching section, so talk about what you're seeing on Netflix or EastEnders, as I said earlier, and and
it's that contextual safeguarding. It's relating it to something that is happening, whether it's online, whether it's on a TV show. I think
site or
I think it makes it more real, and it makes it more relatable,
and it makes it more recognizable as well, because you see it in practice and you think, sometimes when you're watching things and you think, oh, I know what that is, or actually I think I've seen that, and just talking things through sometimes with colleagues, there's like that light bulb of that now makes sense. We spoke on the last podcast about you can sit and be taught things and have an online course, but actually to learn something is a long-term change in your neuro pathways, and it's not something that you should need to revise, revisit, and refresh, but if you're having to learn something again each time you're doing it, you've not learned it. And the best way to learn it is to experience in a multitude of learning styles, so to hear it, see it, do it, a whole variety. Not many people learn it in one learning style only. Most people learn with all of them. So the best way in practice and in setting to do that is to talk to each other, show each other videos, of what's going on in the news. And updates. 100%. And yes, it's not the nicest topic of conversation sometimes, but it doesn't always have to be the bad either. It can be the positive too. Fabulous. Wonderful.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, safeguarding is a big topic, and if you have any concerns, you can reach out to your settings DSL or to the Showcase Training Safeguarding Lead, or direct to MASH or LARDO.
Don't forget to like, share and follow our podcast to stay updated, and as always, let's keep the conversation about safeguarding and early years going. Until next time, take care and keep making a difference.